Hello, this is Lisa LaRose here on Connect to Love on PRNFM, and I am joined by my wonderful co-host, Michael J. Russ. I am so honored and so welcome. It just fills my heart so much, Michael, to have you each week share your thoughts and what you bring out in my world. I just am so grateful. So welcome. Welcome to you.
Thank you. It's awesome. Ditto right down the line.
Yeah, so when I thought of, I wanted to start off and just say both you and I met through Glenn Brooks, the founder of the Vibrant Living Network, and he always used to say and love the thought of a beginner's mind and what that means. And so I thought if we could be open and invite in a beginner's mind, and we'll kind of delve into that. But I had a quote that sort of reminded me of a beginner's mind, because each day, if we approach the day without any prejudices, without any preconceived notions that we were actually beginning something new, it's sort of like taking ourselves out of our own element and putting ourselves into something different. And there's this woman, and it's Joy Bell C. And I'm guessing it's a woman, but perhaps it's a man. But the quote that I read, it just sparked so many thoughts, and I thought it would be great to start off the show with it. And it says, I have realized it's during the times I am far outside my element that I experience myself the most, that I see and feel who I really am the most. I think of that it's like a comet that you see. A comet is born in the outer realms of the universe. It's only when it ventures too close to our sun or to other stars that it releases the blazing tail behind it, and it shoots brazen through the heavens. And meteors become sucked into the atmosphere before they burst like firecrackers and realize that they're shooting stars. That's why I enjoy taking myself out of my own element, my own comfort zone, and hurtling myself into the unknown, because it's during those scary moments, those unsure steps taken, that I'm able to see that I'm like a comet hitting a new atmosphere. Suddenly, I illuminate magnificently, and fire dust begin to fall off of me. I discover a smile I didn't know I had. I uncover a feeling I didn't know existed in myself before. I am a shooting star, a meteor shower, but I'm not going to die out. I guess I'm more like a comet then. I'm just going to keep on coming back. And I love that. I thought, oh my gosh, that's exactly what we every day, we have the opportunity to be like that. And that when we take ourselves and put ourselves into a place that may be a little bit uncomfortable or take the blinders off, that we are really able to make connection. And so, I just thought that would be such a fun way to kind of talk about it. And you're one of my favorite comets too, Michael. Hurtling around this universe with you.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I'd love to hear your thoughts about that.
Well, stepping outside of your own element, it's something that, number one, it brings up the unknown, and the unknown is fearful to many people because we are more comfortable with the known. And Glenn Brooks used to always say as well, step outside of the known. Step outside of the known. You only grow when you step outside of the known. You have to embrace the unknown. And that involves getting comfortable with being uncomfortable, as they say. It's a sort of this conundrum, so to speak. You want to grow, you want to evolve. However, it involves doing something that it involves embracing the unknown, a different mindset of embracing the unknown and being comfortable with being out there. Now, me, personally, my experiential wisdom is all about, stepping into the unknown. I've talked to, before in this program about, getting together, walking and seeing a group and asking if I could play with them, play drums for a couple of songs with them when I've never met them before. They've never met me before. I've never been in that place before. And I'm out of the town, out of the country somewhere. Maybe they don't even speak my language. They still say for some reason, yeah, sure, come on up. And I'm like, and I get up, and I could say I just turn my fear into energy. and focus. That's the way I've learned to do it, to turn any fears I have into power. Turn that fear into power by focusing. I step into a whole different world mentally. And that world is one where I immediately connect. I connect with my higher self, and I'm able to then, I guess, channel what I need to channel in order to succeed musically. I have an intense focus, and I hear things, I listen. I have a unique knack for ending a song when it's supposed to be ending. And I've been complimented by that many, many, many times. Where like, how did you know that song was ending there? And I'm going, well, I can sense it. I'm looking. I'm gathering together all of the information that is in my field, and that information is telling me that the song's going to end in the next 8 beats. And that's pretty much it. And it's validated by someone in the group, bass player, lead singer, keyboard player, somebody. I'm just paying attention. Instead of being in my own little world, I am immersed in the world of what's going on. And for people, when you're stepping into, to our listeners who are stepping into an unknown situation, focus is your ally. Focus is it. Fear is actually your ally. It allows you to gather this energy you have within yourself to focus on what's going on, to open up all of your senses, your sense of smell, your sense of touch, your sense that you're able to move within the field of your vision and see things and hear things and pay attention in a way that you wouldn't otherwise do it because you're in a place of comfort. Most of the time when we're in a comfortable place, we're not paying attention. We're not. It's just what we do. Well, I've been there before. I've done that before. I know what happens, so I don't have to pay attention, which is if you're doing this day in and day out, year after year, it can become very boring. And you never evolve through that. You're not putting yourself in a situation where you have to experience something that is uncomfortable, that lets you know that you have the tools and the skills to be able to move beyond it, to deal with it in a positive way. My mother used to always put us in a position, if we wanted to do something, she would never say you couldn't do that. She would say, give it a shot. And if we failed or if it didn't turn out as we planned, then she wouldn't say, I thought that wouldn't happen. No, she would say, maybe you might change it. Tell me about it. And then say, maybe you might change that next time. Give a suggestion, that words of encouragement, and maybe a suggestion for how to succeed next time or how to do it better. Interestingly enough, my dad was kind of the same way, although my mother was the one I think who was the soothsayer in the tribe.
That's a good choice of words.
Yeah, she was a soothsayer, man. She was absolutely amazing, and sat there. I have to tell you, this is really a funny story. I came home one day after 2 years of being divorced, and I said, I think I want to marry this girl, and she'd already met her, and she goes, really? Why is that? And she let me walk right into it. She let me walk right into it. Oh yeah, I was divorced about 2 years later, but I mean, still. She let me walk right into it. She evidently saw something. Love is blind. They say that's a kind of a cliche thing, but it can be. I mean, love is a drug. It, your endorphins and your dopamine starts, ratchets up, and before you know it, you're blind to things, seeing things that other people can see. And if they're wise people, they won't necessarily say, I wouldn't do that if I were you. That's not what they'll say. They'll say, yeah, if that's what you feel you need to do, then do it. Because that's how you learn about yourself. That's how you evolve in life. You learn something about yourself you didn't know before. And you have to step out of your own element, as your quote said, in order for you to learn that. Now, the trick is, of course, to forgive yourself and not beat yourself up forever, no matter how much it costs you. in abundance or whatever price you have to pay for it. You consider that part of the lesson as well. It's like, I'll do something different next time, or maybe I won't. So consequently, I've been in a relationship for 21 years, and I'm not married, and I'm not going to get married again. And she knows that, and she doesn't want to. She's been in a marriage before, but we're committed to creating a place for our relationship to thrive. And she lets me go do whatever I need to do. She doesn't necessarily have to be involved in it. We do things together. There are things that we do on purpose with intention together, and we have fun doing it. And then I enjoy being in my office doing my own thing 5 days a week till 5 o'clock. However, I know when to shut it off. And so it's what's interesting about ourselves in life. This is a challenge, a big challenge for most people. And I had somebody, a boss way back when, this was 38 years ago. And he said, you know what? He says, what you need to do is to, if you wash yourself with your right hand every morning, because most people use one hand to wash themselves, the right hand or left, whatever the dominant hand is, switch hands. Do it the other way for a week. My handwriting, a friend who's a handwriting specialist told me, write with your left hand. Instead of your right hand, write my alphabet with your left hand. Because your non-dominant hand is the direct connection to your, direct connection to your, my apologies. I
it sounds like that's your direct connection. That's
yeah, that was direct connection to something that's they have to leave a message. It's a direct connection. Your left hand is a direct connection to that'll work. To your direct connection to your creativity, your creative mind.
I believe that. Mm-hmm.
That's what it is.
Yeah.
It's a direct connection to your creative mind. And it's interesting because I had a wine glass, I think a couple of days, sometime in the last week. I was given a wine glass at a party and a pen to write my name on the glass. And I literally just took the glass in my right hand, and they gave me the pen in my left hand, and I wrote my name with my left hand. Easy peasy, no problem, because I'd done it before. And it looked exactly like my right hand, as if my right hand had done it.
That's fantastic.
Very interesting stuff.
Yeah. No,
it's kind of cool. You can do that.
Yeah, and Michael, I think it's really great because we do learn from our mistakes. And I recently found there was a gentleman, Stephen Pressfield. He was the author of the book Vaggermance, and I went to his website because I had heard about him. And what I love about what he said, I wrote for 17 years before I earned my first penny. He worked before he even worked as a screenwriter, he taught school, he drove a tractor trailer, he worked in advertising. He lived in a house with no power. I mean, his whole path is so interesting. And he has this new program called The War of Art, and it's really about finding our gifts and our talents and really understanding that you don't have to be gifted, you just start with today. So he has a free mini course. I haven't taken it yet, but I wanted to subscribe to it because I thought, I can always learn something new. And Pam Grout, who is always one of my favorite authors, she talked about becoming a thought artist. And I really like that idea. And you can, and we've talked about this before, really cultivate and create what it is that you want. And so I think that when you start with a beginner's mind, if it's hard for you to see yourself somewhere, forget all of that. Forget the fact that maybe in his case, you've never written a screenplay, or you don't even know how to type on a computer. You don't know how to type. I learned how to type from Mavis Beacon's, learning, just a program and typing on the computer that way. Because I never had that skill set. I never took typing in school. But there's a place that you begin today, and that when you start with that beginner's mind, if you truly sort of pay attention, you'll start to get little subtle hints and information that come along the way. And pretty soon, you're going to forget that you even didn't know how to do this stuff. It just sort of comes to you. And we start to get little clues, and as we tune in and our awareness expands, we start to really pay attention to the synchronicities and the things. So for me, finding Stephen Pressfield's work, I don't really know very much about him, but it gives me a new avenue of exploration. And it's something I thought, I'm not really fond of the word war, but I'm going to, work with it and embrace it and sort of see, well, why did this show up in my life? And really then, look and see what information that might be there for me to pay attention to. What can I learn and grow from? And I think that that's really what it's all about. And I think that was one of the things that I always appreciated about Glenn. Sometimes there were some things that were challenging, but he always sort of took on some topics that expanded and my horizons for sure, and invited lots of areas of inspiration and exploration. And I was thinking about that the other day because, and I'm curious, I'm sure that if we delved into the shows that you were on with him, I had an opportunity to speak with Jack LaLanne when he was still alive. Some really progressive minds, Patricia Bragg, Dr. Nicholas Gonzalez, who healed pancreatic cancer from a very different perspective as an oncologist. And so I think that each one of those people, Jack LaLanne, really when he began his career being a fitness guru, it really wasn't embraced the way that it was. And so for him
it wasn't
and some
even
of the other...
No, go ahead.
It was
wasn't
something. I was going to say something completely new. Go ahead, Michael.
No, Jack LaLanne was a pioneer, and there are people who are pioneers, in their field with regard to what they're doing. They're the fitness people that really look at fitness the way that Jack LaLanne looked at fitness. People didn't look at healing people of cancer the way Dr. Nicholas Gonzalez approached it. His approach was very different, very unique. It was heal the mind and the mindset, the behaviors, habits, and thought processes that created this disease. That was one of his big things. Yeah, you got pancreatic cancer. If you step into the avatar of I've got pancreatic cancer and it's a death sentence and only 96% of the people who have it actually, and only 4% of the people who have it survive, then you're going to have a much more, and you're not willing to change any of the thought patterns, beliefs, behaviors, feelings and emotions that led to that helped create that issue, then you're basically going to have to deal with the consequences. He was somebody who was very stern about who he worked with. He wanted someone who would step out of their element. That's who he wanted. Those the patients that he wanted to have on. He was on 2 of our shows, and very, very unique gentleman, and would only accept patients who were willing to step outside of their element, willing to change their what I've come to understand this past week is identity. Okay, I say the word avatar because I saw the movie last week and it was fabulous. However, it's the same thing. That connection or similarity between identity and avatar. And my friend Brian Scott, I believe, used that example of avatar. We are all souls as avatars. We're in different avatar bodies. Our experience, what we think, the habits we have, what we know, these things are developed over time, and we all have. What's cool about it is we have the ability to change avatars, change identities. And I started thinking back to when I got into the profession that I'm in. And one of the pivotal moments occurred when I realized that I was operating within a profession where I was like an entrepreneur developing my own business under the auspices of as if I were receiving a salary as a manager of a store. Those two things are completely incongruent with each other. And I thought, when I heard that, and I read his, actually I listened to his episode on identity, which I found to be fabulous. There's a lot of dovetails there, obviously, with law of attraction, energy frequency, vibration, resonance, and thoughts and feelings, and imagining yourself as being that now, that kind of thing. But it goes a little deeper than that. Your habits are different. The habits that I had as when I was managing a store, things I was in charge of, things I had to do, the energy, the mindset I had, the behaviors I had to engage in, were not the same as if I owned the store. And then when I was the avatar of a shoe store manager, right? So then I changed professions, but I needed to get away from the avatar. I brought the avatar of shoe store manager to the new profession where I was more like an entrepreneur, more like the owner of the store. And so when I realized that I had not shed the avatar and adopted a new avatar as the entrepreneur, the new mindset, different habits, stepping into, of course, a new version of myself. I was actually creating a new version of myself and had to do that in order to survive and thrive for as long as I have, over 3.5 decades. And I didn't think about it until this week, that is what I needed to do. And we all need to do that. And that's what Nicholas Gonzalez was looking for. He was looking for that. He was looking for people who wanted to shed the old avatar that led to the illness, to the disease, to adopt a new avatar that was one that would support the optimal health that he was helping them with. He was helping them with.
Right.
And if they weren't willing to do that, then no, he wasn't willing to take them on as a patient. And we talked about this. I talked about this with Glenn about we needed to step out of the known practically every day. I mean, he called me every day. We talked, and it was the biggest. It's the greatest challenge for people. It was the greatest challenge for him. It was the greatest challenge for everyone to be able to consistently put yourself in a place where that is with intention. That's what you did. You wake up in the morning and you want to step into a new version of yourself, a version that's yet unknown. Wow. How cool is that? How scary is that? How amazing is that? How brilliant is that? It's everything, And what was it, man? I told you there was a Maya Angelou quote that you put on our Instagram page, Connect to Love Energy Instagram page, and I thought I sat there and I looked at it and I said, that is brilliant. And yet so apropos for I know the way I live, I know the way you live. And the quote is, this is a wonderful day. I've never seen this one before. When you think about that, you're like, no, you haven't seen it before. Wow. So why then would you approach that day like you approach every other previous day? That is the thing. We get into these habits. Smokers have habits. They get up in the morning, they got to go have a cigarette. They eat, got to have a cigarette. Got to take a break, and, have a cigarette. And then you do this and have a cigarette. Yeah, and one of the things that somebody some brilliant person said once to somebody that was trying to quit smoking is that they needed to break the habits. You need to change your avatar. You're the avatar of a smoker. You need to change your identity from a smoker to a non-smoker. And in doing so, you have to shed the habits that are supporting your previous identity. Otherwise, you'll never shed the previous identity because you get the same habits, same behaviors, same mindset, same thought process, same schedule that you run your life by. And it's one of the most challenging things for people to do, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it doesn't matter. If you're attempting to lose weight. A lot of people have made New Year's resolutions. I'm not a big resolutions fan. I think it's
not
just
at all either.
Right. However, it's big in the media. It's big. It's a fun thing for people to, I guess, engage in at the beginning of the year. However, when you say I'm going to resolve to do this or I'm going to resolve to do that, they fail generally because you're not willing to shift the identity associated with what you were doing, or shift your identity to match, to resonate with what you want to accomplish, with the person you see yourself being, the person who is already experiencing success with whatever resolution you set for yourself. It's a challenge. It's almost like somebody once told me, that's like putting the cart before the horse, isn't it? No. You've got to feel it, believe it, give gratitude and thanks for being there, for having being that person already, for having that thing already, for feeling that emotion, for having that success. Have to.
Mm-hmm.
Right? We talk about it all the time. So let me ask you a question. I know there may be some things that have sparked some things within you, but before we end this conversation, I want you to tell our audience if there's anything any realizations that you've had with regard to needing an identity change or changing your identity in any way. Stepping out into a new element.
Oh no, that's a big question, Michael. But actually, you're so in tune with where I'm at, because I have done certain things for 20 years, and I've had successful ventures in real estate and being a landlord, and I come to the realization that's not something that I am enjoying any longer, and it's time for a change. And so I'm transitioning. And although, there's a lot of things that it's easy to continue with, and there's a lot of upheaval in shifting that consciousness, but I know that it no longer serves me. It's not really who I am, and if I'm honest with myself in the true essence of what I want to create, it's not in alignment with what I want to create. So in order for me to shift that, I need to let it go. And I know that as I do, there will be some discomfort, but I also know that as I transition into what I really love, I'm going to have something magical happen. And I truly, truly believe that, we live in this amazing, mystical, magical universe. And whether you call it a muse or whatnot, and I think I've mentioned before, there are certain books from my childhood that I like to reread every year because they just inspire me. And I know it sounds funny, but I just actually this time I listened to it rather than read it because I was so busy. But there was a book by Norman Jester, who wrote a book called The Phantom Toll Booth. And I never ever get tired of reading that book, because it's this little boy and this toll booth is delivered to his bedroom, and he gets in his little car and he has a quarter a coin that he puts in there, and he gets in this toll booth and he goes into this land of wisdom. And rhyme and reason have been put up into basically a lofty castle in the air, and they've been taken from the land of wisdom. So there is no rhyme or reason, and there's the king of the letters and the king of the numbers. And he runs into all of these different characters, including Dr. Discord and all of these different things. And, you think about it being written as a child, but really it's really a lesson for humanity. And one of the things that I think about, and as he kind of goes through and he meets, all of these different people, one of the things that I really love is one of the characters is Chroma. And Chroma directs the sunrise and the sunsets and all the colors in nature, and he gets up and he raises his hands, and all of these beautiful, magical things happen. But he takes a rest when it's nighttime. And he says to Milo, please wake me up. And Milo thinks, oh, well, he's sleeping soundly. It looks so easy. I'll just take the reins and I'll, direct it myself. And everything starts to go okay, but the orchestra doesn't stop. And time speeds up and all these crazy colors and, a whole week goes by and finally in exasperation, he just lets his hands fall and the orchestra stops and then he wakes up Chroma and Chroma's like, I feel like I slept for a week and nobody that was not awake would never have seen that crazy sunsets or sunrises for that week. But I think that I read it as a reminder to myself that, just like Milo, I'm getting into my car and I'm embarking on a new year, and there's things that are going to come up, and there will be discord and dissonance, and there will be, all of these different things that he runs into, and I think it just eases my mind. I'm like, okay, this is all part of it. And at the end of the book, of course, rhyme and reason have been restored, and Milo's back in his room, and everything goes back to normal. But it's just, I think for me, it's just a gentle reminder, and it's that connection to my childhood and the wonder and knowing that along this path and along this road, there will be different things that I encounter, but it's all part of my journey. And it's all part of our journey, and I think that that's really where we do see things through the eyes of a beginner, and that's how we experience the mystical in life. And so I would ask you the same question, Michael. If you're in a place right now where you are going to embark on with a beginner's mind, or to actually embrace something new for yourself, what would that be?
Thank you very much for that. And I'm already doing it, actually. I'm always doing it, which is interesting enough. This is a time in my life where at age 64, I have reached a point where, like you, I'm ready to transition from what I'm doing into being more of service to humanity, service to people, and I've written books. I have a podcast with almost 188 episodes, and we've got Connect to Love with many episodes, over I think 55 or 60 episodes we've got, because we do one once a week for the podcast, and we do the radio show on Saturday for that. And I am in a position right now of I've been learning about how to manifest on a completely different level, one that involves water. Is memory, and I've told you about this before. And I don't believe there are any. I don't believe in coincidences. I don't believe in accidents, and that's the way I live my life. So when I come across something, I want to know why, and I seek to understand its connection to me, and however it resonates with me. If it resonates with me on a deep level, then I pursue it. And sometimes I'm pursuing 2 or 3 different things at once, and I have to kind of step back and kind of clarify, ask for clarity as to which one I should be moving in, and where the which one should be first, which one should be second, which one has priority, should take priority. And I made a vision board. It started with this vision board that I made in November. And I suggest everybody take a look at creating a vision board, because it really helps you to get your imagination involved in your life. If you can't see it, you can't be it. And I know that sounds trite. However, it is so true. You can't imagine yourself being different, right?
I was going to ask you, do you put yourself on your vision board? You put a picture of yourself on your vision board. I'm just curious. Sorry to interrupt you, but I wanted to ask that question.
Interesting point. No. I put my name. I wrote my name and my signature in the way I'd write my signature. I have a special signature that is fully aligned with who I am. And I put that at the top, vision board of Michael J. Russ. The picture to me wasn't as important as me making sure that I said it was my vision board in my particular handwriting, the way that I sign my name, and because that is who I am, and what I represent, and one of the purposes that I'm here in this life. However, it's kind of interesting because I have brought together different things that I'm thankful for, grateful for, that I put deep feeling into, gratitude into, feelings of gratitude. And one of the challenges with the vision board is, just like with anything else, you have to believe it's already done. So it is, it is so.
Right.
It is done. And then you go about your life, and you pay attention to continuing to nurture your thankfulness and your gratitude for those things. Sometimes it's immediate. Other times it's something that takes a while. Some things manifest in different ways than you initially thought they would. And other times they're almost exactly the same way. We have to. It's interesting when we set an intention to imagine something in our lives. There's a whole host of things you have to pay attention to, and that is the main thing is your relational connections. It's interesting. I'll tell you a quick little story here. I take a walk about 3.5 miles a day. And I pass a book box on a trail, at the head of a trail. There's a book box, take one, share one, that kind of thing.
Right.
And I passed it 5 times, telling myself each time, I've got to go get my Zero Adversity book and put a couple copies in here. And I finally did 2 days ago. And when I did, when I thought about it that time, the reason that I actually followed through is that I got to the trailhead, and there was a woman on a bicycle. She was on a road bike, and I walked, and she, rode miles. I don't know how many miles that she rode, but she rode to this box, and she was opening the box, looking at books in the box. What can I take, and what try to put back whatever it is, and I'm going, And I stopped and I said, hi. I said, I don't really believe in coincidences or anything. What's your name? And she says, Heather. And I said, I'm Michael. And I said, I have a couple of books to put in here. So next time you come back, look for one called Zero Adversity. I'm going to put a couple copies in here. And she said, what's it about? And I told her what it was about in the simple terms. And she said, oh, wow, I like that. And so when I came home after the walk, the first thing I did was get the books. I signed them. I put a little note inside of them, wrote a little note, and I drove them up to the book box, and I put them in. And I don't know what's going to happen from that. I did put my podcast and this podcast in the book after I signed it, right below it. You never can tell. The right people, I've always believed one thing, the right people, the people who need it, will connect with it. And I just let it go. I don't give it any further thought beyond that. It's kind of like you plant a seed. You know it will grow. You give thanks and gratitude for it growing, and then you let it go. You've watered it. You've nurtured it with the thanks and gratitude and deep feeling, with deep emotion, and you're off to something new. And I've always done that. And you never can tell. I've had people connect with me, later on, either about my podcast or something I put up. Thank you very much. I really appreciate this. This is exactly what I needed at this time of my life. And you know what? It's not about millions of people, millions of followers. It's about one person at a time. It's about helping, being of service, being assistance to one person at a time. There are millions of light workers out there, thank goodness. And I'm just one, and you're one of these millions of light workers. And we all have a similar message, maybe. However, that message resonates with different people, not always the same people. And that's what I love about this life. And if I could say anything at all to our listeners about this topic of stepping out of your element, it's to embrace the unknown, to recognize that you're mired in the known. All your habits, all your behaviors, they're known behaviors, they're known habits. You do it every day. You probably do the same thing. If you've got kids, you do the same thing with them every day. And it's when you change your behaviors completely. And like if you went in and woke up your child and said, "Hey, good morning, I love you," and you'd never said that before, how would your child look at you? Would they look at you differently? And how would you feel about doing that? Instead of going and say, "Hey, time to get up, go to school, come on, get dressed, make your bed, blah, 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 blah," the normal thing, wash your face, brush your teeth, come to breakfast, I've got it, it's ready for you. These are the normal habits. What about shifting it up a bit? Bringing a little love. If this year, 2023, according to Pam Gregory, is a year where love and connection have the opportunity to thrive astrologically, okay? And planetary alignments are now in a new cycle in the next, 22 years, 42 years, something like that. We're in a cycle where connections, the energy of connection can thrive. And love, community, relational connection can thrive. The one thing I loved about Glenn was that how relational connection to him and the depth of it was everything. It was everything to him. Absolutely everything. And so when it comes to dealing with what's going on, okay? When it comes to dealing with life in general, relational connection, I keep that in mind. I hold that at the top of my list of intentions is to relationally connect with somebody every day if I can. If I go out, even if for a brief moment, you never know how you can leave someone better than you found them. You can leave someone better than you found them. It's pretty amazing that you can do that. You can leave them better than you found them. It's crazy. It is crazy how that's the case, but that is the case.
Yeah. Well, Michael, I really, when you were talking, and I so embrace everything that Pam has to say in regards to connection, and I think that part of where we are in this new year, and we touched on this on the last episode, that really we need to think of ourselves in a new light, and it has to do with personal sovereignty. And I believe truly finding your own sense of style, owning who you are. I've come to the realization that I am an eclectic maverick. That's the new word that I'm deeming myself. I put in my places that I create for my Airbnbs, I put things that you would never in a million years think that they would go together. And then once they're all in place, somehow it all seems to flow and to fit. But I sort of own that, and I think back to what Pam Grout said about being a thought artist, and so many of us look and see what's trending, and you have to have the latest shoes or the latest purse or whatever else it is that's trending, if it's the right car. But really, right. It's about determining your own sense of style. And so I think that when you do that, and this goes along with owning your personal sovereignty, you have to really be open to what is available in the universe. Know that each one of us has the ability to create, and you don't have to. There's nothing that makes me more creative than anybody else on this planet, or less creative than anybody else on this planet. But I think you have to sort of pay attention to the subtle cues and really cultivate your own gifts and talents. And really look inside yourself for what that is. I think that sometimes even the information that we need doesn't even come from inside of us. Sometimes there'll be something that you'll say to me that and it just like opens this floodgates of thoughts that unfold from my brain, and then I don't even know where it goes from there. But I think when, as you said, you have to be open to the communications. We could be sitting in a coffee shop somewhere or in a bookstore and overhear something, or somebody, handing us a book and say, "Have you read this book before?" And you're thinking, "Oh, I don't even know you. Why are you handing me this book?" But maybe it could be the greatest gift that they could ever give you. And so by you putting your books in that box, that's so wonderful, because the people who are going to need it are going to be attracted to it. And I think that, who knows, maybe they're looking for a solution, and that the problem that they're looking to solve, the answers are right in that book. And it can be just that simple. So, if we sort of cultivate that practice of being more open, and then, sort of amplifying it and thinking of ourselves as being part of this oneness, and we all have this part to play. And if we do a 1,000-piece puzzle and there's one piece missing, it's not complete, and you might be that missing piece. So, and really, I think to see yourself that way makes a big difference in life. And that's what I would encourage our audience to do. Whoever your muse is. Sometimes my muse is my dog. My dogs inspire me to do some of the craziest things sometimes. And one of them had an eye issue, and so I look for different remedies. And then I find some different remedies, and then if somebody else has a pet that has that same issue, then I share that information. And that's really how things evolve, and you gather it, and you kind of curate a library of information that you can pass along. And it's really, go ahead, Michael, what were you going to say?
No, it's really cool. I have to do the same thing. Only it's not with the same kind of thing, but I live on a beach. It's a community where a lot of people are moving in. Some people stay for a week. Other people are moving here for the rest of their lives, retiring in one of the communities here. And I'm known as the guy who knows where to go. All the people that I talk to, they're like, "Oh no, just ask Michael. He knows all the best little places where you can go get this, the best pizza, the best this little thing, some of the happy hours that are around that are some of the best, or where do you go if you need that, where do you go if you need this." I just like being of service to people in that way. It saves them time. It saves them frustration. And I did this test. I think I told about this last week, but I did this really extensive 75-question test. And the result of the test was that I'm an influencer. Mm-hmm. And I'm a persuader. I've always known it. Personality-wise, I'm a persuader personality. But I'm an influencer. I help people. I don't change people's minds, because you can't control people or change people. They have to do it on their own. However, one of the things you can do with anyone is influence them. You can be a positive influence for them. You can be a role model for them and influence them through your own experiential wisdom, your own example, and your own the way that you interact with them. And a smile is one of the best ways to interact with anyone, is a smile. Most people, I don't know if you know this. I know you probably do, because we're kind of clued into this. But the number of people I come across that do not smile is amazing. It's astounding. People just walking about their lives, and you see them, they see you, no smile. Others could be. I'd say only about 20% of the people I come across on a daily basis actually smile if I go somewhere. I leave my office and go out and about and run some errands or whatever. They're at the grocery store. They're conditioned to be personable and to smile. And I always feel that it's genuine because of the way it's said, because of the way they connect. And that's a great organization that can help their people do that, because really it's all about the way you connect. Now, one of the big themes for this year astrologically is relational connection, community, finding your unique essence and connecting with others in ways that enable you to be you, to maintain who you are, instead of sacrificing who you are to be a part of something. I thought that was a very interesting take on the energies of 2023, because so many people sacrifice themselves, either sacrifice who they are to be a part of something, or they settle and are not really ever 100% happy with the choice they made. Mm-hmm. I'd be the first one to tell people I'm not a belonger. I don't join organizations. I've done that in the past. I'm beyond at this particular point of just joining an organization for the sake of joining an organization. I think there are people who are meant to do that. I have been the president of the board of a museum for 7 years. I gave and helped and sacrificed and made sure that made connections and helped people to be the best they can be. But at this point, it's about leaving people better than you found them.
Right.
If I had to sum it up, that's really what it's about. And I believe that was what Glenn really was about as well, leaving people better than you found them. Because he was deeply interested in people, how they felt. I'm giving a talk in a month, in 5 weeks actually, to an organization. And I am right now in the phase of, I'm the meditative phase, as far as where I want to take the keynote that finishes their conference. And one of the things I know that I was told by the owner of the company is, I want my people to develop deeper relationships with the people we do business with. And what's the best way to do that is to make sure that you have prepared yourself for that connection. Mm-hmm. People forget about that part of it, but that's what you have to do first. What is your mindset? What is your attitude? Do you want to connect with other people? Do you set the intention to have a positive connection with other people? And is your whole demeanor, your attitude, and your behaviors support? Do they support a positive connection? And are you focused on the intention of leaving that person feeling better about themselves by talking about feelings? That's what Glenn was about. So let's talk about how you feel. Forget about the facts. And I was told that decades ago. Forget about facts. Facts don't matter. Facts are facts. They don't really tell you how someone feels about life. And one of the things that I always remember, and I encourage our audience to do, is to speak to people in terms of feelings. How do you feel about the day? How do you feel about life right about now? How do you feel about doing that? You got a new job? How do you feel about it? And shut up and let them have an opportunity to express how they feel. It's not, do you like the job? Yes, no. No, it's, how do you feel about that? How do you feel about your marriage right now? How do you feel about being married? How does it feel to be married for the first time or the second time or the 15th time or whatever it is? How does it feel to be in real estate? How does it feel to do a podcast, to connect with people? How do you feel about that person you just met? That's what you want to know. That's when you get to the heart of who someone is. All right? So it's been a great conversation. How much time do you have left?
We're actually almost out of time, but I just want to first say I include you in the category of a maverick. So you're a maverick influencer. And for those of our audience that don't know what a maverick is, it's a person who thinks and acts independently and differently from others. And I think that each one of you is a maverick. You each have treasures hidden within you, absolutely extraordinary treasures. And it's just for you to amplify and do everything knowing that within you is that gift. And I'm so excited for what's yet to evolve and just really awestruck, Michael, at all of these conversations I have to share with you, and so grateful for the opportunity. And I don't know if you want to add anything. Yep. Let's see. Let's
do that Maya Angelou quote one more time that you put in that post. This is a wonderful day. I've never seen this one before. Wow. Think about that when you wake up in the morning and see where that takes you. See where that takes you on your journey of the day.
That's fantastic. And what a wonderful invitation. Thank you, Michael. And
You're welcome.
Until next week.
Bye-bye.